You will not prosper this year if you keep the same mental foundation. That is the truth most people avoid facing. Before money grows, your mind must become strong enough to sustain wealth. Before opportunities appear, something inside you must stop sabotaging what you claim to want. And before your life changes on the outside, a new structure must be built within. Without that foundation, focus weakens. Discipline becomes unstable. Consistency disappears. Decisions lose strength, and results never hold for long. That is why so many people start full of motivation and end up in the exact same place. Not because they are incapable, not because they were born without potential, but because they are trying to build prosperity on a mind that has never been trained to sustain it. Wealth is not just about effort. Wealth is about structure. When the foundation is weak, a person gets distracted easily, becomes disorganized easily, gets discouraged easily, self-sabotages easily, walks away too quickly from what should have been protected with strength. Then life falls into cycles. The same confusion, the same scarcity, the same habits, the same inner excuses, the same desire to change without the strength to truly move. Now pay close attention to this. When that mental foundation starts being built the right way, changes begin to show up within days. Your clarity increases. Your sense of direction changes. Your energy becomes more organized. You start thinking with more strength. You begin making decisions with more awareness. You feel that something inside you is no longer weak and is finally gaining structure. That is where everything begins. Because prosperity does not start in your wallet. It starts in your mind. It begins in the way you interpret life, in the way you protect your attention, in your ability to hold a vision without retreating every time an obstacle appears, in the inner strength that keeps you from living on autopilot. Napoleon Hill understood this long before most people did. Lasting wealth was never the product of momentary luck. It has always been connected to inner principles that shape behavior, strengthen identity, and transform the way a person lives, chooses, and persists. That is why in this video, you are going to understand the 6 pillars of wealth that must be built in your mind this year. We are not talking about temporary motivation. We are not talking about beautiful phrases. We are talking about foundations. Foundations that change your posture. Foundations that strengthen your discipline. Foundations that reorganize your vision. Foundations that pull you out of instability and turn you into someone prepared to grow. And here is the most important point. What may be missing from your life right now is not more time, not more luck, not another big opportunity. What may be missing is the strengthening of what is still weak within you. Because when the mind has no foundation, any fear can shake it. Any criticism can weaken it. Any delay can discourage it. Any distraction can steal its strength. Any difficulty can seem bigger than it really is. But when the right pillars start being built, a person changes level internally before life changes externally. They think differently. They decide differently. They carry themselves differently. They work differently. They tolerate less distraction. They accept less mediocrity. They begin to treat their future with far more seriousness. And the world always notices when someone stops being unstable and starts becoming solid. So as you listen to this video, do not listen passively. Look at your own life. Notice where your foundation is still weak. Notice what is sabotaging your consistency. Notice where you are trying to grow without having first built support. Because one of these 6 pillars may be exactly what is missing to unlock your life this year. And when you identify it, do not ignore it. Strengthen it, apply it, protect it, sustain it. Because the person who builds the right foundation within will not stay small for very long. Pillar 1, definite desire. Nothing truly great begins while desire remains vague. This is one of the most common mistakes among people who want to prosper. They say they want to grow, want more money, want stability, want abundance, want a better life. But everything stays far too general. And what is general rarely creates powerful movement. A mind without definition creates a life without direction. When someone does not know exactly what they want, any distraction feels important. Any obstacle feels massive. Any outside opinion carries too much power. Any path seems acceptable. And when any path seems acceptable, life starts scattering in every direction. Definite desire is the beginning of wealth because it organizes energy. It gives your attention a target. It forces your mind out of fog and into commitment. Maybe you say you want to prosper this year. Fine, but what exactly does that mean? Do you want to increase your income by how much? Do you want to get out of debt? Do you want to create a new source of income? Do you want to start a business? Do you want to grow professionally? Do you want to become more valuable in the marketplace? Do you want to gain control over your finances? Do you want to stop living in improvisation? Without that clarity, your mind keeps receiving mixed signals. And a confused mind produces inconsistent action. Look at how many people stay busy without advancing. They work, think, run, solve problems, put out fires, consume content, plan changes, talk about goals. Yet the months pass and almost nothing truly moves. Very often, the problem is not lack of effort. It is lack of defined direction. When desire is real, it stops being a nice phrase and becomes an organizing force. It starts influencing your choices. It changes your focus. It makes you realize what no longer fits the future you want to build. It makes certain habits feel too small. It makes certain conversations lose their appeal. It makes certain environments start to feel uncomfortable. A person with definite desire no longer lives carelessly. They begin treating time with more respect. They begin noticing that every day is either strengthening or weakening what they decided to build. Napoleon Hill emphasized this point because he understood something essential. The human mind needs a clear command. When that command does not exist, energy dissolves in 1,000 directions. The subconscious receives conflicting signals. Behavior becomes unstable. Execution loses strength. You cannot prosper at a high level while continuing to desire in a shallow way. You need to define. Name what you want. Measure what you want. Visualize what you want. Write down what you want. Turn your desire into a mission. It may sound simple, but most people never do it seriously. Most only imagine. Few decide. Fewer write it down. Almost none live daily in alignment with what they say they want. That is where the separation begins. Definite desire makes the mind stop wandering. It tells your inner system where your life must go. And when that happens, even your posture changes. You stop negotiating so much with distraction. You stop wasting so much energy on what does not matter. You begin filtering better what enters your life and what remains in it. If you want to prosper this year, you cannot keep speaking to life in vague language. Wealth responds better to clarity than to anxiety. So ask yourself with brutal honesty, what exactly do I want to build before this year ends? What do I need to achieve? What do I need to correct? What do I need to leave behind? In which area of my life must prosperity show up first? Do not accept superficial answers. Your first major shift may happen the moment your desire stops being an impulse and becomes a decision. Because when desire becomes defined, life stops feeling like a pile of random days and starts becoming a construction with direction. Now there is a problem that destroys many people right after they become clear about what they want. They gain clarity. They see the target. They decide to change. They feel that finally they are going to move forward. But it does not take long for doubt to begin attacking. Suddenly, the mind asks whether it is really possible, whether it is too ambitious, whether it is too late, whether it would be safer to pull back before disappointment comes. And this is exactly where many people lose strength, because it is not enough to know what you want. You must believe in your vision before it becomes visible. Without that, desire is born, but it dies early. That is why the next pillar is so decisive. Pillar 2, faith in your own vision. Once desire becomes clear, a silent battle begins. Will you hold internally what you decided to build, or will you allow doubt to destroy it before the process even matures? This pillar matters because every major transformation goes through a phase where there is still not enough proof on the outside. At first, the change happens in the invisible. Your posture changes before your bank account changes. Your discipline changes before your results become visible. Your language changes before your reality catches up. Anyone who only believes what they can already touch quits too early. Faith here is not just a religious concept. It is conviction. It is the ability to hold a vision mentally before seeing it materialized. It is continuing to align with the future you chose, even when the present has not yet confirmed it. Many people do not lose in execution. They lose in interpretation. They interpret a delay as failure. They interpret a difficult phase as a sign that the vision was wrong. They interpret a slow beginning as proof of incapacity. They interpret resistance as permission to give up. But not every delay is failure. Not every silence is rejection. Not every difficulty means you should turn back. Without faith in your own vision, every emotional fluctuation gains too much power. Every setback feels final. Every comparison weakens you. Every outside criticism enters too deeply. And that is when the process starts dying on the inside. Many people speak about big dreams while treating their own vision like something improbable. One part wants to grow. Another part is already preparing for defeat. They take steps, but internally they keep retreating. They act, but they act contaminated by doubt. They try, but they try without inner agreement. No one builds wealth like that. There must be alignment between your vision and your mind. You do not need to have all the resources today. You do not need to see every detail of the road ahead. You do not need every answer before you begin. But you do need to stop behaving as if your vision is something embarrassing or unrealistic. It must become a truth in construction. Faith in your own vision also requires protection. Not every voice deserves access to what you are trying to build. Not every opinion comes from wisdom. Much criticism comes from fear. Much caution comes from limitation. Many people call it realism when it is actually premature surrender. If you do not protect your vision, someone will try to shrink it. And that shrinking does not always come from malice. Sometimes it comes from people who care about you, but see life through small lenses. People who never dared will feel uncomfortable when you begin taking your future seriously. People who settled become uneasy around someone who stops accepting the same pattern. That is why anyone who wants to prosper must develop inner stability. Faith in your own vision is not arrogance. It is not pretending problems do not exist. It is simply refusing to abandon what was planted within you just because it has not yet bloomed on the outside. At some point, you will have to stand up in the middle of uncertainty and say to yourself, I still believe in what I am building. I still believe in the direction I chose. I still believe my life does not have to remain the way it is. That kind of conviction changes a person. They stop depending so much on applause. They stop measuring their pace against everyone else. They stop collapsing because of temporary delays. They begin developing quiet strength. And the external world cannot easily destroy someone who has already decided internally. But there is something many people do not realize. Even when the vision is alive, it can still be eroded from within, because it is not only the external world that weakens a person. An undisciplined mind does it constantly. Thoughts of fear, negative scenarios, silent self-sabotage, constant distractions, distorted interpretations. All of this slowly wears down inner strength until a person starts abandoning on the inside what they still claim to want on the outside. That is where the battle becomes more serious. Anyone who wants to prosper cannot allow the mind to run wild. They must learn to govern their inner world, or they will be governed by it. And that is exactly why the third pillar is indispensable. Pillar 3, mental discipline. This may be one of the most ignored pillars, and at the same time, one of the most decisive. Many people believe it is enough to have goals, motivation, and good intentions. Yet they continue feeding an inner mental pattern that destroys what they claim to want to build. They want to prosper, but think like people who already lost. They want to grow, but mentally rehearse failure all day long. They want abundance, but keep repeating the language of scarcity. They want stability, but live emotionally surrendered to chaos. An undisciplined mind silently destroys the future. Mental discipline is the ability to choose which thoughts stay, which interpretations get fed, and which emotions are not allowed to rule your decisions. It does not mean denying reality. It does not mean pretending everything is fine. It does not mean numbing emotion. It means refusing to let destructive thoughts become the loudest voice in your life. There is a huge difference between feeling fear and obeying fear, between noticing insecurity and handing it your direction, between going through a difficult day and turning that day into an identity. Anyone who builds wealth must learn to interrupt certain inner narratives, because the mind exaggerates. Something goes wrong, and it says nothing will work. A delay appears, and it starts speaking as if everything is lost. A criticism arrives, and inadequacy quickly rises. A small result shows up, and the thought says it will never be enough. That pattern is expensive. It drains energy. It steals focus. It weakens discipline. It disorganizes action. It consumes entire days in invisible battles. Mental discipline begins the moment you realize you do not have to believe everything you think. Not every thought deserves permanence. Not every emotion deserves command. Not every interpretation deserves trust. Not every temporary feeling should become life direction. Look at how most people live. They wake up and dive into distraction. They hand their attention to the phone. They consume comparison. They listen to complaint. They absorb collective fear. They feed themselves on noise. They breathe in urgency. And then they wonder why they have no clarity, no peace, and no strength to move forward. That is not a coincidence. A mind exposed daily to confusion will rarely become an instrument of wealth. Filtering is necessary. Your mind cannot be a public square where any voice comes in, makes noise, and leaves residue. It must become a governed environment. You must decide what you listen to, what you repeat, what you focus on, what ideas you feed. What mental environments still fit the life you are trying to build? Napoleon Hill spoke about autosuggestion because he understood the power of emotional repetition. Whatever you repeat with emotion begins shaping identity, posture, perception, and behavior. If you reinforce incapacity every day, your behavior will bend to it. If you reinforce disorder every day, your life will organize around disorder. But if you begin reinforcing clarity, direction, growth, discipline, and possibility, your mind begins changing position. This work is daily. Some thoughts must be cut off early. Some inner conversations must be interrupted before they take root. Some interpretations must be confronted with force. Maybe the mind says you cannot do it. You answer, I am still under construction, and I will continue. Maybe it says this has taken too long. You answer, taking longer is not the same as failing. Maybe it says this is not for you. You answer, my past does not define my limit. It sounds simple, but that repositioning changes the direction of a life. Because mental discipline is, in large part, discipline of interpretation. Reality may bring pressure. What will determine your strength is how you interpret that pressure. People who interpret everything as threat live exhausted. People who interpret everything as rejection live paralyzed. People who interpret every difficulty as the end never sustain large projects. But the mentally disciplined person does not collapse so easily. They do not destroy their entire day because of a temporary emotion. They do not turn a mistake into an identity. They do not let external chaos become internal law. And wealth is drawn to stable minds. It is drawn to people who can remain lucid under pressure, to people who protect their attention, to people who are not ruled by impulse and noise. But mastering the mind by itself is still not enough, because a person can have clarity, can have faith, can develop inner strength, and still remain stuck. Do you know why? Because desire without preparation creates frustration. Conviction without skill creates limitation. Inner control without practical growth makes a person move in circles. At some point, prosperity demands real value, real competence, real usefulness, real knowledge that leaves theory and enters life. It is not enough to think like someone who wants to grow. You must become someone more prepared to grow. And that is why the next pillar changes the game. Pillar 4, applied knowledge. Desire without knowledge can become impulsive. Faith without knowledge can become fantasy. Discipline without knowledge can keep a person strong on the wrong path. That is why wealth demands applied knowledge. And that last word changes everything. Applied, because the world is full of people who know a lot and change very little. People who accumulate videos, courses, notes, quotes, books, references, theories, methods, and concepts. Yet their life remains the same. Information alone does not make anyone wealthy. In fact, too much information without application can weaken you. It creates the false feeling that you are moving forward simply because you are consuming content. A person learns too much, compares too much, organizes too much, adjusts too much, and acts too little. And without intelligent action, knowledge becomes weight. Napoleon Hill valued specialized knowledge. In other words, useful, directed, relevant abilities connected to what a person wants to build. This is not about learning everything. It is about learning what increases your value, sharpens your perception, and strengthens your ability to produce results. Think about your own life. If you want to prosper, what skill must you master? If you want to earn more, in what area must you become better? If you want professional growth, what ability would raise your level? If you want to build a business, what must you learn deeply? If you want to escape stagnation, what practical knowledge is still missing? Many people want a better life without becoming better at anything. They want to harvest more, but never increase competence. They want to earn more, but never raise the value they deliver. They want new opportunities, but keep the same level of preparation. Wealth tends to flow more easily toward people who become highly useful. That does not mean ignoring the complexities of life. There are difficult contexts, injustices, and real limits. Yet one powerful truth remains. When a person increases their value, their possibilities of growth also increase. Applied knowledge works like a bridge between intention and result. It moves you out of motivation alone and gives your feet something concrete to stand on. It gives structure to your vision. It gives your discipline a real field of execution. And there is a dangerous trap here. Many people fall in love with the feeling of learning, but avoid the discomfort of applying. They like the idea of growth, but run from the test. They admire people who won, but refuse the price of training. Life does not reward passive admiration. It responds better to consistent application. You can listen to wealth principles all year long. You can repeat strong phrases every day. You can consume deep content. None of that changes your reality in a concrete way until that knowledge enters your routine and alters your behavior. Maybe the most important question here is this: what do I need to learn right now in order to become more valuable? Not what sounds interesting, not what is trending, not what entertains, What is useful for the life you want to build? That question reorganizes the mind. It pulls you out of random consumption and puts your focus into strategic growth. Some people stay in the same place for years because they keep studying what comforts them, not what transforms them. They prefer content that creates emotional excitement rather than skills that demand practice, repetition, correction, and humility. But prosperity requires preparation. You will not be paid only for effort. In many cases, you will be paid for the value you can deliver. And value demands real ability. The market may not notice your exhaustion, but it notices your usefulness. People may not understand your struggle, but they notice when you solve problems with quality. Income tends to grow when your contribution grows. That is why applied knowledge is not a luxury. It is a necessity. This pillar also requires discernment. Not every type of knowledge deserves your time. Not every fast promise deserves your attention. Not every trend deserves to be followed. Anyone who wants to prosper must learn to choose better, must avoid the hunger for shortcuts that almost always ends in frustration. Some people spend the whole year looking for the final secret. Meanwhile, others choose one important skill, go deep, practice, improve, position themselves, become a reference, and move forward. Very often, the secret is not discovering something miraculous. It is doing extremely well, for long enough, what actually matters. When this pillar becomes stronger, confidence begins to grow in a legitimate way, not just as positive thinking, but as real awareness of capability. A person becomes more confident because they know more, execute better, and clearly see the value they are building. But this is where many people get stuck again. They learn a lot. They write a lot down. They consume a lot of content. They understand many concepts. They even feel like they are evolving. But when they look at their own life, the structure is still weak. There is no order, no method, no practical direction, no conversion of intention into sequence, no bringing the dream out of the idea stage and into daily life. Because knowledge without organization becomes accumulation, and accumulation does not build wealth. Wealth requires structure. It requires a plan. It requires priority. It requires a path that can be repeated with consistency. This is where many goals die, not because desire was absent, but because organization was absent. That is why the fifth pillar becomes unavoidable. Pillar 5, organized planning desire, shows the target. Faith keeps the vision alive. Mental discipline protects your inner world. Applied knowledge teaches you how to move forward, but something essential is still missing: structure. Because many people have strong ideas, want to change their life, and even learn a lot, but still live in disorder. They act on impulse. They work without a system. They begin without finishing. They put in a lot of effort, but without intelligent continuity. Disorganization consumes years. Organized planning is not unhealthy rigidity. It is not trying to control every detail of the future. It is creating enough order so that your life does not depend only on your mood, your motivation, or the pressure of the environment. Without planning, the mind has to decide everything all the time. That creates exhaustion. It creates distraction. It creates procrastination. It creates the feeling of overload. A person wakes up without clarity about what truly needs to be done, enters reactive mode, and gives their best energy to what is urgent rather than what is important. By the end of the day, they are tired and feel busy. Yet the essential thing remains untouched. That pattern is devastating. The months pass. The year moves. The intention may exist, but it never finds structure strong enough to become consistent construction. Organized planning breaks that cycle. It pulls your life out of improvisation. Maybe it does not sound exciting, but nearly every solid form of wealth has some type of order behind it. There is priority. There is process. There is intelligent repetition. There is consistency aligned with a greater vision. Without planning, even good opportunities get wasted. Without planning, potential loses strength. Without planning, goals become phrases with no consequence. Without planning, the mind feels busy while life remains misdirected. The question here is serious. Is your current routine serving your future or merely keeping you occupied? That reveals a lot. Some people confuse movement with progress. They spend their days replying to messages, handling urgencies, dealing with interruptions, jumping between small tasks, consuming content, and drifting into productive distractions. In the end, the important project never gets the best hour of the day. The main goal never receives deep attention. The strategic skill never receives fixed space. The financial plan is never reviewed. The real construction of wealth keeps being postponed. And that is how the year ends. Organized planning demands honesty. You need to look at your life and identify where energy is leaking. Maybe prioritization is missing. Maybe routine is missing. Maybe simplification is missing. Maybe courage is missing to stop doing what takes up space but creates no progress. Getting organized is, in many cases, an act of respect toward your own vision. Anyone who takes the future seriously does not treat their days carelessly. This means defining concrete priorities. It means knowing what deserves your best focus. It means deciding what must happen every week. It means creating rhythm. It means reviewing progress. It means adjusting without quitting. Napoleon Hill valued organized planning because he understood that desire without a plan tends to dissolve. A person wants a lot, but never structures the path. They dream, but never build the road. They expect results, but never prepare life to sustain them. Wealth rarely visits a completely improvised life. Planning creates continuity, and continuity creates results. Think about how many projects died, not because of lack of talent, but because of lack of organized consistency. Excellent ideas have been crushed by chaotic schedules. Strong goals had disappeared because they never gained fixed space in a routine. Capable people have fallen behind because they kept putting out fires and never built anything with method. This pillar also means breaking something big into executable parts. A huge goal can intimidate, but when it is divided into steps, the mind can breathe. Action becomes possible. Progress can be measured. Consistency becomes more accessible. That is how wealth is usually built, not only through dramatic moves, but through repeated decisions made with order and direction. Maybe you do not need more motivation. Maybe you need a clearer plan. Maybe you are not lacking ability. Maybe you are lacking organization. Maybe the block is not in the size of your dream. Maybe it is in the way your days are being managed. Look at the last week you lived. Did it reflect the life you want to build, or only the life you are trying to survive? That question is uncomfortable, but necessary. When this pillar grows, a person stops negotiating so much with procrastination, stops depending on emotion, stops living at the mercy of chance. They create a concrete base that makes progress more predictable. And that creates peace, because constant disorder wears a person down deeply. But clarity of plan reduces unnecessary anxiety. You know what must be done. You know what matters. You know what must be repeated. You know where you are failing. You know what must be adjusted. Wealth also has a lot to do with this kind of maturity. Now we arrive at the point that separates those who merely begin from those who truly build. Because many people can create a plan, can organize themselves for a few days, can even get into rhythm for a while, but then they lose strength. The excitement fades, obstacles appear, the process feels slow, the results still have not arrived, and the old pattern starts trying to return. This is where almost everything gets decided, not when it is easy, not when inspiration is high, not when everything looks promising. The real test happens when continuing requires maturity, Without that strength, even a good plan gets abandoned. Even a strong vision loses ground. Even a more disciplined mind can surrender to exhaustion. That is why there is one last pillar that sustains all the others when pressure increases. Pillar 6, unshakable persistence. Here is one of the most important truths about wealth. Almost no one fails only because of lack of ability. A huge number of people stop too soon. They quit in the phase when it still looked small. They retreat during the season when the harvest was still invisible. They abandon the process because they confuse slowness with lack of progress. Persistence is what separates people who merely begin from people who truly build. And we are not talking about persistence that sounds beautiful only in theory. We are talking about the strength to continue when excitement disappears, the capacity to keep working without applause, the maturity to remain in the process even when the road feels slower than expected. Without persistence, the other pillars become vulnerable. Desire weakens. Faith wavers. Mental discipline suffers. Knowledge stops being applied. Planning gets abandoned. Persistence is what keeps the structure standing when emotion starts shaking. Most people want consistent results with inconsistent habits. They want continuous growth with emotionally unstable effort. They want life change, but refuse to repeat important actions for long enough. Wealth does not usually respect that kind of fragility. It demands endurance. Persistence does not mean insisting blindly on everything. At times you will need to adjust your strategy, learn better, change your approach, and revise your method. But one thing is adjustment. Another thing is abandonment. True persistence knows the difference. It understands that obstacles are not always commands to stop. Many times they are tests of strength, focus, intelligence, and endurance. There is a stage in almost every major construction where nothing looks impressive. You keep working, learning, correcting, planting, disciplining yourself, trying to grow. And outwardly, everything still looks small. That is one of the most important moments of life, because that is where your identity is being tested. Will you remain someone who only acts when you feel like it? Or will you become a person capable of honoring your vision, even on ordinary days? People who win great battles usually learn first how to win normal days. Days without applause. Days without emotional intensity. Days without immediate proof that everything is working. Persistence is born exactly there. Napoleon Hill valued this principle because he knew most people retreat at the first sign of resistance. Temporary failure, for many, already feels like final condemnation. But for the person who understands process, it becomes information. It shows what must be adjusted, reveals where weakness still exists, exposes what still needs maturity. When you begin seeing it that way, pain stops being only weight. It also becomes formation. Unshakable persistence does not appear out of nowhere. It is built. It is born from a clear vision. It is strengthened by faith. It is protected by mental discipline. It is guided by knowledge. It is sustained by planning. The pillars connect. None of this is random. Wealth is a coherent construction. Maybe one of the greatest mistakes people make is expecting constant emotional strength. That does not exist. Not even people who grow at a high level feel unstoppable every day. The difference is that strong people do not turn weekdays into permanent excuses. They keep going. They restart quickly. They correct course. They regain focus. They continue walking. Anyone who persists long enough often surpasses people who may be more talented but emotionally unstable. Because consistency over time creates enormous advantage. Think about how many lives would change if people simply stopped quitting so early. Think about how many projects would flourish. Think about how many goals would be reached. Think about how many fortunes would begin to form. But persistence has a price. It requires humility to keep learning. It requires courage to continue without guarantees. It requires endurance to handle silent seasons. It requires maturity to stop measuring everything only by immediate results. That price pushes many people away, but it also selects. Wealth rarely surrenders to emotional impatience. It usually comes closer to those who prove they can sustain. Sustain vision, sustain discipline, sustain routine, sustain learning, sustain focus, sustain action. Before this year ends, you will need to decide what kind of person you are going to be. Someone who begins with intensity and stops with ease, or someone who develops enough firmness to cross the entire process. That choice changes everything, because almost everyone gets tired, almost everyone doubts, almost everyone faces delays, almost everyone has days when the old self tries to return. But not everyone surrenders. Some people keep going, and the ones who keep going long enough start becoming unrecognizable compared to the life they used to live. And now you can see clearly why so many people spend years desiring prosperity without ever truly reaching it. They do want to grow. They do begin with intention. They do get excited about the idea of changing their life, but they do not build enough foundation to sustain transformation. Without foundation, everything shakes. Without foundation, discipline breaks. Without foundation, vision weakens. Without foundation, routine falls apart. Without foundation, every difficulty feels larger than it really is. But when these pillars begin to rise within you, your whole life starts responding in a different way. Closing what you saw here today is not just content. It is structure. And that structure can completely change the direction of your year. Wealth is not only money. It is organized inner strength. It is clarity. It is direction. It is self-command. It is the ability to hold a vision until it becomes a reality. The 6 pillars you saw today are not beautiful ideas to admire. They are foundations to apply. Definite desire, faith in your own vision, mental discipline, applied knowledge, organized planning, unshakable persistence. When these pillars begin growing stronger, something very important happens. You stop living like someone who is merely waiting for a chance and start becoming someone prepared to recognize, attract, and sustain opportunity. That changes the way you enter a new month. It changes the way you wake up. It changes the way you work. It changes the way you deal with fear. It changes the way you interpret delays. It changes the way you see your own life. Maybe your financial change will not begin with one dramatic external event. Maybe it will begin the moment you decide to rebuild yourself from within. Maybe it will begin when you stop chasing quick formulas and start raising real foundations. Maybe it will begin the moment you understand that prosperity is not an accident. It is the consequence of a mind aligned with strong principles. So do not leave this video merely inspired. Leave decided. Choose one of these pillars that became most visible to you today. Maybe it is clarity. Maybe it is faith. Maybe it is discipline. Maybe it is knowledge. Maybe it is organization. Maybe it is persistence. But choose one and begin strengthening it today, because a year can change a lot when a person stops wasting energy and starts building with intention. And when you do that, you will notice something powerful. The same life that once felt stuck begins responding in a different way. Your decisions become firmer. Your mind becomes clearer. Your direction gains strength. You start noticing opportunities with sharper eyes. Your posture changes. Your presence changes. The way you act changes. And the world always notices when someone stops being confused and starts becoming solid. If this message spoke to you, write in the comments which of these 6 pillars most needs to be strengthened in your life this year. I want to know which one hit you the hardest. And if you want to keep receiving content like this, with timeless principles on wealth, mindset, and building a stronger life, stay with the channel, because there is still much more to build.